If you're thinking about teaching permanent makeup but you have absolutely no idea where to start, then this one is for you.
Welcome to PMU Unveiled. I'm Layla Hinchin and I'm your podcast host. I am the creator of the PMU Circle, an online membership there to bring confidence and education to artists around the world. I've also run my multiple six-figure clinic and training academy for many years, and I am here to bring you unfiltered PMU talk. Let's scrap those false pretenses and the image of perfection that surround our industry. We want to keep it real, we want to educate and of course inspire you. Together, we're going to challenge the norm and shed some light on the realities of being a permanent makeup artist. If you're ready to dive deep and join us, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's get going.
If you're thinking about teaching permanent makeup but you have absolutely no idea where to start, then this one is for you. So during this episode, I'm going to talk you through the things you need to be considering and how to get started with your very own training academy. So the first point I want to make is please make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Now, whilst teaching permanent makeup can really double or even treble your revenue in the industry, you need to be teaching for the right reasons. You need to be passionate about permanent makeup, and you need to be even more passionate about helping others succeed. If you're going into it just for the money, then I'm going to say stop right there. You see, when you're passionate about training and you do a good job and you are always on hand to support your students, you are always going to be successful. I rarely even have to advertise for students because all of my students purely find me based on recommendation. And that's because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And so my students get a good experience and they are more than happy to recommend and tell others. You also need to be considering the time aspect of things, because whilst you may think, okay, that's 4 or 5 days out of my month if I'm going to run a beginner course, please bear in mind that a lot more time is spent behind the scenes, marking and feedbacking case studies, marking assignments if you're going to do assignments, assessments, and of course support. Students are going to need support, especially after fundamental training, and you're going to need to be on hand to do that. So just make sure that you will have the time to dedicate to your students. The next thing you need to be thinking about is how experienced are you? I see this question a lot in forums. I've been doing permanent makeup for 2 years. Do you think I'm ready to teach it? I don't think you can go by time, because you may have one artist that's been qualified 2 years and she's working part-time, maybe doing 4 clients a week. And then you've got another artist that's also been qualified 2 years that is working full-time. She's doing 4 or 5 clients a day. They've both been qualified for 2 years, but the second artist is going to be way more experienced. So when it comes down to experience, it's not necessarily how long you've been tattooing, but how many treatments are you doing on a regular basis. You need to be able to confidently teach others. You need to be confident to demo in front of others. You need to be prepared and ready to answer any questions that they're going to have. You need to also be able to deliver theory as well as your practical. It's not just about showing somebody how to tattoo, it's about getting them to understand why. The why we choose this needle, why we choose this pigment. Because as you know, there's not one set rule, there's not a one solution for everybody. We need to teach our students how to adapt. So do you feel confident in doing that? If so, then I'd say you're probably ready to teach. Okay, so where do you start and what do you need? I would say mentoring is actually a really good way to start teaching. So just one-to-one mentoring with a qualified artist that needs further support. It's a really nice way of getting your foot in the door with teaching, seeing if you like it, seeing how good you are, without the hassle of having to set up a full beginner academy and manuals and accreditation. So mentoring is a nice step in. That's actually how I started teaching permanent makeup. I was already a qualified teacher before because I've taught beauty for a very long time. It was when artists actually started approaching me asking, can I help them, that I thought, okay, let's start with mentoring, because there's a lot more pressure on you as a trainer, I feel, with PMU than there is with, say, teaching someone how to do a spray tan. You need to remember that students are paying a lot of money for training in permanent makeup. So again, you need to be dedicated and you need to be passionate and you need to be hands-on. I hate it when trainers just kind of stand back and let you do what you want. You need to be in there with them, correcting them, assisting them, helping them to improve. That's the whole reason they are coming to you. So that's one way you could get your foot in the door, get a feel for it and see if it's right. If you are certain that teaching is for you, then I would definitely recommend thinking about setting up your beginner's academy. So if you are in the UK, what you would need first is to do your AET. This is your award in education and teaching. This is your entry point, and this will allow you to write your own courses, get them accredited and deliver them. Now, if you're like me and you're in a London borough that does require the Ofqual regulated level 4s, to teach these you would also need your assessor's award. So you would do your AET, then you would have to do your assessor's award. You would also need to have your own level 4 certificate in micropigmentation to be able to offer this as a qualification. I'm going to come on to the differences with privately accredited and Ofqual regulated, just in case you're not sure on that one. So you can do your AET, you'll learn all about teaching, how to deliver, how to accommodate different learning styles. You can write your own manuals. You can basically create your course. You'll do your lesson plans, your schema works. You'll submit all of that for accreditation. Once your course is accredited, you can now offer a privately accredited certification. Now, the upside to privately accredited courses over the Ofqual regulated training courses, I'm going to say, is the lack of paperwork. When you're privately accredited, you pretty much do have the freedom to teach how you want to teach, what you want to teach, include what you want, and, assess how you want. You kind of submit your course, it's approved, and then the rest is just really left up to you. Now, if you do offer the Ofqual level 4, the upside is that this is a nationally recognised qualification rather than a privately accredited certificate. So the Ofqual level 4s, they do carry a little bit more weight behind them. It's a little bit like doing an MVQ, for instance. Also, if you are in a borough that requires level 4, you're probably going to want to teach level 4, because what you don't want is to be teaching students that are local that then can't get licensed. So for me in my borough, if I teach someone a privately accredited course and they're also in a borough like mine, they're not going to be able to get a license, and morally, I don't think that's right. The downside to the Ofqual level 4s is a lot of paperwork. There is a lot more paperwork. Everything's tracked, everything's logged. You'll have an IQA and an EQA. So an IQA is an internal quality assurer, and then the EQA is an external quality assurer. The EQA comes from direct from VTCT or Ofqual or whoever your awarding body is going to be. And it's like you'll have the IQA that comes in a few times a year to watch you teach and check your teaching kind of fairly across the board, assessing fairly across the board. Then you have the EQA that comes in to assess the IQA, and then the IQA is assessing you. There's like a little chain there. The reason behind this is because when you're offering an Ofqual regulated training qualification, there needs to be standardisation. Everybody needs to be teaching and assessing at a similar level, and of course it has to be done fairly. So as I said earlier, the main difference between a privately accredited course versus an Ofqual regulated level 4 is that the Ofqual regulated level 4 is actually a qualification, whereas our privately accredited certificates are just really a certificate of attendance to say someone has done a training course with you. Now, whilst London boroughs do require the level 4, most others do not at the minute across the country. However, this is in the processes with government about whether this is going to be introduced nationally. So as a trainer, it may be something that you want to look towards offering, even if you don't require it right now, because it can take a while to set up as an Ofqual regulated academy. When you see private accredited companies label them as level 4, just bear in mind they're not really level 4, they don't really mean anything. If it's not Ofqual regulated, it's still not a qualification. So I could do an ABT level 4, for instance, but it's still not level 4. It's like you could call yours level 7 or level 10 if you wanted to. When they're privately accredited, they are still not nationally recognised qualifications, and they don't follow the occupational standards. So something else for you to think about. But if you don't need level 4 where you are right now, I'd say start with the privately accredited courses. Listen, there is nothing wrong with privately accredited courses. Either or, it still comes down to the trainer at the end of the day. I've known students to go on Ofqual regulated level 4s and still have bad training, unfortunately. So whilst they are trying to regulate and raise standards, I don't think they're quite there yet personally with that. So the standard of training, it still comes down to the trainer. Okay, so let's say You're ready to start your beginner academy. You've done your AET and you now need to write a manual. I remember I probably spent months writing my first manuals for this, because you need to get a fine balance when you're writing a manual. You need enough information in there, but you don't want to make it millions of pages where students are not going to read through it or be able to find what they need, or just feel ridiculously overwhelmed. So in my manuals, it covers everything from health and safety to anatomy to contraindications to the basic colour theory. They've got step-by-step mapping in there. Hair stroke patterns, for instance, if you're doing hair strokes. They've got a diagram of needles and what to use, what needle for what, aftercare, consultations. So they've got all of the key stuff in there, but it's a summary, and it's more so that students can reference back to it post-training. So when you walk away from a training course and you think, oh, what did she say about that? You should have a manual there that's going to answer that question for your student. You're also going to want to start mapping out your course. So this is your scheme of works. This will be all of the key points your students are going to learn on each day, how they're going to be delivered, any resources you're going to need, and if there's any assessments or Q&As, etc. How you're going to test that they're listening and that they're understanding. From your scheme of works, you would then go on to lesson planning. So a lesson plan is more of a detailed description of each day, with kind of time slots of what you're going to teach on when and what the outcomes of that will be. Now, if you do need help with any of this, we do have our Teacher's Blueprint. This is an online course taking you through setting up your academy from start to finish, but it does also include all of my manuals, my lesson plans, my scheme of works. You've got all of my marketing material in there, my training prospectus, and they're all on Canva, and they're all there for you to use, rebrand as your own, and edit as you wish. So if writing your manuals and doing all of the paperwork side is something that's holding you back, please know that is an option, and please feel free to drop me a message if you'd like to know any more about the Teacher's Blueprint. Another thing you're going to want to think about is pricing. How are you going to price your course? So for me, teaching needs to be bringing me in more money than clients do, because I do feel like teaching brings a whole new level of pressure, and it's hard work as a trainer, especially on a beginner course. They're very long, tiring days, and also you need to be accounting for all of the time you're going to spend outside of the academy, so with support, marking, feedbacking, etc. So when I'm pricing a course, I'm looking at how many students I'm going to have on each course. So what will the total income be? I will be looking at how many days out of my clinic it's going to cost me, how much time roughly I'm going to be spending behind the scenes, what am I putting in their kit, how much does that cost me, am I paying admin staff to deal with students and packing up kits and all of that kind of side of it. You will find, if you can get admin help with this, I would definitely recommend it, because you'll be surprised just how time consuming, even getting a student from booking to paying to signing her terms and conditions to getting the kit sent out to her to getting her set up on pre-learning, how much time that takes before you've even started teaching. So all of that goes into consideration when I'm pricing a course. And then of course you want to do your market research, you want to see what others are charging for a similar kind of thing, and as you research, I'm sure you're going to see that prices vary massively when it comes to fundamental training. But again, I'm looking at how many hands-on days do they have, how many models are they doing, what's included with their kit, how much time are they actually spending with me. Then of course you want to be thinking about marketing. How are you actually going to get your students in? So obviously make sure you've got a good website, make sure it's optimized for SEO, because you will find predominantly you're attracting people from the same kind of area that you are clients. However, you will get students that are willing to travel quite a long way. Obviously Google is great. Make sure you've got your Google listing up to date. Google Ads I do find can work well if you are spending on ads. Because what you tend to find with Google is if someone is actively searching permanent makeup training in Essex, for instance, they are students that are actively already looking. So if you can get them there, perfect. Obviously, social media also still plays a huge part in training, but just remember who you're targeting with this. If you're doing mentoring and masterclasses, then the forums and the groups are perfect places to pick up students. Even just being active in there yourself, supporting and answering questions, you'll find you will start to get noticed as a trainer. If you are looking for beginner students, obviously bear in mind they're not going to probably be hanging out in the forums just yet. So make sure it's clear on your socials that you are training Start using educational posts through social so you can demonstrate your knowledge and start building up some testimonials. So there's a little checklist for you. I hope you find that useful. Now, you've probably seen that I'm not actually offering beginner courses anymore. Well, I am, but not the standard beginner courses. So my beginner courses used to be, I used to do like a brow course, which was 5 days. I've actually changed this now to offer mentorships. The reason being, and this is something that you're probably going to want to consider when you're starting your academy, is, as you know, the industry has advanced a lot, especially over the last 5 years. There is an awful lot more to learn than, say, I did way back when. Everything's just so much more in depth now in our industry because we are advancing very, very quickly. And what I was finding, and especially from the PMU circle and talking to artists every day, what I found was that most beginners just are not getting enough out of these short, intense courses anymore. They are leaving feeling overwhelmed. They don't feel confident. They're not even sure if they're going to continue. And I just think we've packed too much into a short space of time. So when you are writing your courses, bear this in mind and maybe even consider spacing it out or doing sections or making sure you've got pre-learning online. So we have our e-learning portal for our students, and they get at least 30 to 40 hours worth of training before they even come in for the hands-on days, because what you really need to do is maximize the hands-on time that you have together. They need to be doing as many models as possible. They're going to want to watch demos. You need to be doing mat work, perfecting their technique with them. You don't really want to be wasting days in clinic together reading through your manual and talking through all the theory. This is the kind of stuff you can put online and get them to learn it before they come in. However, even with our pre-learning and our 5-day course, I still just felt it wasn't enough anymore. So I'm now doing mentorships, as I said, which is a minimum of 3 months working together. I'm doing this on a one-on-one basis because I really want to tailor make the training around the student. So they'll come in, they'll do a day or 2 with me, then they're going to go away and practice. When they've perfected that, they come back in, we'll do some models, they're going to practice, they come back in. So it's going to be like an ongoing kind of training program. I will be giving them at least treble the amount of hands-on models with me as what they would have got in my 4 or 5 day beginner course, because I think this is really where we need to be improving with our training standards. 1 or 2 models and off you go. It's not enough anymore. And as you know, the problems that we face is different on every single client. So a student facing these problems on their own for the very first time after only tattooing twice, it's a lot. And if they make a mistake, it's a huge knock, and it's hard to recover sometimes from that. So if you want to see any of my training prospectus, if you want to see how I've laid out the mentorship programs, feel free just to drop me a DM and I'll be more than happy to send you the link, which will just help you to then go on and think about how you're going to structure your own training course. We need to be raising standards in our industry. Training needs to get better. It needs to be longer, and it definitely needs to be taken a little bit more seriously. So if you are serious about being a good trainer, definitely bear this in mind. Make them courses longer, get them nice and thorough. Make sure your students are leaving feeling confident and feeling like they know what they are doing. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I do also have a free checklist for setting up an academy. So again, feel free to reach out to me on socials, on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll be more than happy to send that over to you as well.
And that wraps up another brilliant episode. I hope you guys are enjoying. If you are, we would really appreciate dropping us a little review below. It will help our channel to reach more artists, and hopefully we can support more and more people on a regular basis. Don't forget, my inbox is always open, so if you have any questions at all for me, or there's anything or anybody you would like to see featured on the podcast, just drop me a DM. We're always here for you, and I will catch up with you over on the next episode.